Hey, honey,
Yes, Barry?
let's get out of here.
Where are we going?
Where do we always go?
Fascina el viento, este ritmo de palmas, sin naturaleza, hasta encontrar la playa. Por eso grito al mundo, yo soy de Puerto Vallarta. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta.
Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. I'm your host, Barry Kessler, and I'm just so happy to be introducing you to my favorite vacation destination. Maybe it's even yours, and that's Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. That music you're listening to is performed by Alberto Perez, and Alberto is the owner of the Lapa Lapa group of restaurants. Those are the Lapa Lapa, Puerto Vallarta's oldest restaurant in the famous Los Muertos Beach, and the El Dorado restaurant and beach club right next door. So you can enjoy that fantastic view of the Los Muertos Pier, all lit up at night in beautiful colors, or during the day in its grand splendor for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Seated with your toes in the sand right at the water's edge. It's so romantic. It's so Puerto Vallarta, my friends. This week we are going to visit with Jimmy Plouff over at the Vallarta Food Bank. Jimmy's going to fill us in on what's going on over there, and you're going to be amazed at what's going on over there. And we're also going to visit up El Tuito way. We're going to visit with Maddie James, and Maddie and Jesse have this new cool place. In addition to their really cool B&B, they have a pizza and sandwich place. It's a real restaurant. It's called Provecho, Panque, Panini's Pizza y Mas. And Maddie will tell you all about it, and Mas. But before we get to Jimmy and Maddie, let's see what's happening this week in Puerto Vallarta, the 10th of February, 2021. COVID-related restrictions continue on the ground in Puerto Vallarta. The order was given by Jalisco Governor Enrique Alfaro to close restaurants, bars, taco stands, and anything else that was serving food and alcohol by 10 o'clock in the evening, every evening. That order was supposedly going to end on the 31st of January, but it was extended to the middle of February. I think by Valentine's Day, they should be all done with this. And by the way, if you are in town for Valentine's Day, some of your favorite restaurants, many of them will be open and many of them will be having Valentine's specials. Make your reservations and get over there and keep these restaurants in business. If you are over the age of 60, these shutdowns are going to keep you from going into some of the big box places, Costco, Mega, Home Depot. They are not allowing you old geezers to walk in there because who knows, the Rona might, swing down and attack you and take you out, or maybe the opposite. I don't know. But in that case, stick to some of the more local, smaller places, the little tiendas, the local mercados. They're all open. They're all allowing old geezers like myself to go shopping for vegetables and fruits and in all kinds of stuff like that. Oxos are also open. The El Coyules of the world over those great local liquor stores. Go enjoy those. Now, I did get a couple questions from some listeners. They want to know what it's like being there when it's kind of quiet, and they asked if I noticed the restrictions. Well, I guess I noticed that it was quiet. I usually eat late, so I did notice that I needed to eat earlier and make myself enough time so that I could sit down, enjoy myself, and not be rushed and shoot out of the restaurant. And so that I noticed. But I also noticed that meant that I got up early in the mornings and I think I had breakfast every day. So in that case, I wasn't out partying. I wasn't out, enjoying music, sitting and having a good time. at a cantina somewhere late at night. I actually got a little bit of sleep, and I, enjoyed a breakfast. So I went to Cuates, I went to Lapa Lapa a couple times. I went to Meño's place, which I really, really loved. I had tacos de birria Alex and tacos de birria some other place. Did a lot of tacos for breakfast. Mi Cafe, those were just a few of the places that I had breakfast. I did notice, like I said, it was pretty quiet. There were fewer American visitors. Everybody that I spoke with were bemoaning the fact that the Canadians were leaving in droves. It just didn't look like high season was going to ever happen, and it didn't look like things were going to turn around. So people were a little bit depressed, and now Canada has heaped on some new rules and some new regulations on anybody who dares to travel and have a little bit of fun and get some sunshine. That's right. There are new restrictions on travelers from Canada. This is from the Huffington Post. It reads, new travel restrictions for Canada include mandatory testing at airports, according to Trudeau. Canada's airlines also agreed to suspend flights to the Caribbean and Mexico until April. And the byline is Ottawa. To deter the potential import of new COVID-19 variants into the country, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced new restrictions and measures Friday to make the cost of travel more expensive. The actions to discourage non-essential trips will come into effect Sunday, which will see immediate suspension of flights by major Canadian air carriers to sunny destinations. There goes your vitamin D, folks. And here I actually have a little clip from, I guess it's from CBC. Let's listen to a Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, explaining why Canadians are so screwed if they want to travel. Take it away, Prime Minister.
The government and Canada's main airlines have agreed to suspend service to sun destinations right away. Air Canada, WestJet, Sunwing, and Air Transat are cancelling air service to all Caribbean destinations and Mexico starting this Sunday up until April 30th. On top of these flight cancellations, we're bringing in other measures as well. Starting next week, all international passenger flights must land only at the following 4 airports: Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, and Montreal. In addition to the pre-boarding test we already acquire, as soon as possible in the coming weeks, we will be introducing mandatory PCR testing at the airport for people returning to Canada. Travelers will then have to wait for up to 3 days at an approved hotel for their test results at their own expense, which is expected to be more than $2,000.
All right, so yeah, you can still do a little bit of workaround and fly a U.S. carrier into Puerto Vallarta or back, but as Trudeau said the other day, the government and Canada's main airlines have agreed to suspend service to sun destinations right away. Air Canada, WestJet, Sunwing, and Air Transat are canceling air service to all Caribbean destinations and Mexico starting this Sunday until April the 30th. Now, this Sunday has come and gone. There has been some legal action that was promised to keep the government from mandating these $2,000 3-day hotel stays. And so far, we haven't seen that implemented yet, but they're getting ready for it. But we will see what occurs as the date for implementation comes closer and closer. We'll see what these COVID detention centers look like. Personally, I think we should call them Motel 19 after the famous U.S. economy motel chain. I think that's got a good ring to it. Now, add to that, I read some news that Canada has banned any cruise ships in Canadian waters until February of 2022. So that's a year away. And even though that does not affect Mexican travel, it seems like a big hit to the Canadian travel industry. By the way, Puerto Vallarta still has no plans for any cruise ships anytime soon, near or far future. And who knows? We're not seeing any cruise ships going around anywhere around here. So let's go over some of the new travel rules for Canada and for the United States traveling to and returning from Mexico. First of all, you just heard the news. No Canadian airline carriers are flying to Mexico, so that means 60 fewer flights are going to be coming from Canada into Puerto Vallarta every month. And as I said, Canadians could fly a U.S. airline to a U.S. hub and transfer and then take a U.S. flight into Puerto Vallarta. And to do so, a Canadian would need a negative antigen or PCR test taken no more than 72 hours before your flight into the U.S., because that's now what the U.S. is requiring of flights in. You will need a proof of a negative test or proof of a positive test with a note, like we talked about last week, from your doctor or a medical professional that clears you to fly or to travel or to return to work, any of those things, stating that you're no longer contagious. Now, I want to get back to you about that in just a couple of minutes. But anyway, that's what it's going to be for Canadians traveling to Puerto Vallarta. Now, as an American, as a U.S. Flyer, if you are flying out, you must wear a mask in the airport terminals and in buses during the plane ride, with the exception, of course, when you are eating or drinking something. But as of today, Americans are not required to take any tests boarding domestic flight or international flights leaving the U.S. into Mexico. But coming back is a different story. But exiting the country now, you don't have to worry about that. Now, once you are in Mexico, both U.S. and Canadian travelers are required to fill out some of these forms. The regular ones that we always fill out when we get there. There's the immigration and the customs forms that we fill out. And then there is the new COVID form that we fill out where we say that we're not sick, that we haven't been sick, and where we're staying, and where we sat on the plane on the way over. And this is all for tracking purposes. And then they also had they didn't take your temperature, but they had one of these imaging machines that you walked past, one of these thermal imaging machines. Now, while you are in Puerto Vallarta, you are requested to wear masks in public, and you're required to wear them on buses and in taxis and on Ubers, and when you're entering restaurants and when you're walking around in restaurants. When you're seated, you can take off your masks and eat and do what you normally do. The tables are spaced adequately so that there's enough room between them. And then you will see, especially in the touristy areas, that the masking rules are being followed pretty well. And these are my observations from the three different times that I have been down in Puerto Vallarta during the pandemic. Now, returning, as we said last week, Canadians, you don't get a choice of what kind of test you get to take. U.S. citizens are required to have a negative PCR or antigen test to fly into the U.S., but Canadians are going to need a negative PCR or polymerase chain reaction test to get into Canada. So as a Canadian, you need to get tested to return no more than 72 hours from takeoff. You need a negative test result or proof of a positive test with a note from your doctor or a medical professional that clears you to fly or to travel or return to work and states that you are no longer contagious. Then you will be perhaps required to stay at a Hotel 19 for 3 nights at a cost of about 2,000 Canadian dollarettes, and then it's off to your home where you'll finish your 14-day quarantine. And sound daunting? Nah, you Canadians can do that. Now, if you are an American, you need a negative PCR or antigen test no more than 72 hours before your departure from Mexico, or proof of a positive test with a note from your doctor or medical professional that clears you to travel or fly or return to work, stating that you are no longer contagious before you also can board that airplane and head off to the U.S. And once you land, you will be required to perhaps retest within 3 days or quarantine for 7 to 10 days, depending on what state you're in or, what county you reside in. I'm going to talk about that too. Don't let me forget that. Now, last week, I gave you a couple tips on getting those tests, where to get them, how much they're going to cost, what are the best ones to get, and so on. And so if you go to last week's show notes, you're going to find them, but I'll put them into this week's show notes as well. And last week I said that the best place to get tested and the cheapest place to get tested is at the Puerto Vallarta airport. Now, that's assuming that you're not staying at a resort where they are doing free testing, because there's resorts that are doing that. And also, you need to give yourself enough time. Just make sure you do that. I recommend that if you're a U.S. citizen, that you should get the antigen test. You should go down to the airport maybe like 2 days before you leave. 3 days at the most, but give yourself enough time so you don't go over that 72-hour mark. And, of course, if you don't want to do that, there's places all over town that are doing tests. Some people will actually come to your condo or your hotel room and do the test too. And now I have them in my show notes, so you can check those out as well. So this is what I wanted to talk to you about. Let's say that you get tested and you test positive, but you're not sick, right? You're going to need to have something like a doctor's note, some doctor that's going to clear you for takeoff. I'm going to be compiling a list of doctors and health professionals who can write you a doctor's note to clear you so that you can fly if you have a positive result. And I'm going to have those in the show notes too. Give me a couple of days. I'm going to put those together so that you have them. If you're not sick, there's no reason that you should be sitting around in Puerto Vallarta, even though you maybe want to for, I don't know, another couple months, who knows. So let's talk a little bit about my trip. I took Delta Airlines. I flew in, Delta still has a center seat of each row open, so you're not shoulder to shoulder with your row mate. This time down, the plane was only about 25% full, so about 45 passengers total. It was pretty quiet. The same protocols at the airport terminals and on board the plane. You needed to wear masks at all time, except when you're eating or drinking. Questions were asked both online during the check-in process online, and when you arrived at the terminal and were checking in your baggage and checking in for your ticket. They asked things like, are you feeling fine? Have you had any symptoms? And do you agree to wear a mask at all times? So that was all pretty much all the same. Was there anything that was different? Well, there was something that was different. There were more restrictions when I got back to the U.S. Anyway, even though I got under the wire from having to take a test before getting on a plane in the United States, I didn't know what they had planned for me when I arrived back in Los Angeles. When I went to my email box and I clicked on the link to check in on my Delta flight, they asked me as part of the check-in if I would take a look at this web page as I was entering through LA, and they wanted me to quarantine for 10 days. They asked me to promise electrically and sign electrically that I would follow the 10-day order, and I was totally surprised by this, but I signed it anyway. Did I follow it to a T? I'll never tell. I will say that I did not have any face-to-face contact with any clients during that 10-day period, other than over the phone. I was never in, contact at all by any health authorities or any health officials. Nobody came to my door. Nobody checked up on me. So I don't even know if they tracked me through my phone, but like I said, I was not expecting that. So when I got to Puerto Vallarta, the first thing that I did after checking into the hotel was to take a walk down to Cuatecicuetes. I caught the sunset. Then I grabbed a taxi up to JR's place where we exchanged a couple of things that I muled down, and he exchanged a couple of things that he had for me. And then we walked to Que Pasa for dinner and listened to Stephen Tenney and Tequila Rush. And that was a lot of fun. We talked about my planned interviews, and it was great. It was great eating at a real restaurant, actually listening to some live music after being in California for these last all this time, except for when I was in Puerto Vallarta, the only time I could get into a restaurant. My goodness. Anyway, I walked down to Kelly's Por Favor. There was also some live music there. And then up to back to La Siesta, which the hotel I was staying at. Now, without boring all of you with every last detail, I just want to say that almost everywhere that I went, they were using proper protocol. With the exception of in El Tuito, where nobody was wearing a mask. Well, none of the people that were living there were wearing masks. It was kind of unique. I will say that I was up in El Tuito 3 times during this trip, and I took the bus each time, and each time the buses were packed. And it's not like I get on a packed bus. Okay, I get on the bus at the bus stop, usually at the center of town. And they've got these, they've got these bus benches that are set up along this wall right next to this little convenience store. And I've got this story. I got to tell you this story about sitting on these benches. I'll try to remember. About some of these precious moments of sitting on this bench waiting for a bus. Anyway. The bus is empty when you get on it over at the bus stop. It just fills up as you go through the town of El Tuito. And by the time you hit, Highway 200, Carretera 200 back to Puerto Vallarta, it's packed. So, I've always lived to tell the tale. Actually, at one point in one of these trips on the way back to Puerto Vallarta, I looked up from my phone. I realized that 3/4 of the passengers were not wearing masks. Go figure. I took mine off also just so that I didn't look funny. But I took the ATM bus from Walmart across the street from the Marine Terminal. I grabbed that and busted up to Bucerias one day in La Cruz de Guanajuatzle. I spent the whole day interviewing some very interesting people who you could be meeting in the coming weeks. I ate and drank at Karen's place at El Brujo, it's a really nice place right on the water. And El Brujo, of course, has been in the Emiliano Zapata neighborhood in the Zona Romantica in Puerto Vallarta for many, many years. It's a great restaurant. And there they were in Bucerias. Real nice place. And let's see, I interviewed Sydney over at Mezzogiorno. Great Italian food right there on the water, and romantic setting. Just a really nice guy, very interesting guy. You'll be meeting him soon. I went and had some tequila tasting over at this great big restaurant overlooking the harbor over at La Cruz. Everybody was following proper protocols at all these places, by the way. They were taking temperatures at the doors. They were squirting that gross antibacterial snot into your hands. And they were meticulously wiping and cleaning tables and menus and chairs. And everywhere you looked, they were doing their best to keep everybody safe. And in town, it was just like it always is, just with fewer people. Now, there was never an issue getting a table anywhere. I could tell you that. Almost everywhere, I could sit down, but and almost everybody was open too. So there were no issues with not being able to find a place that was open. Mask wearing, as I said, in the tourist areas was very good. You could see it just about everywhere. Everybody was being good. There was no entertainment on the Malecon. Nothing going on over at the amphitheater there. They actually, while I was there, they just wrapped tape around everything again because they didn't want anybody playing around. So the food booths were going on the Malecon. They were open. I saw Rodolfo singing. I caught him a couple of times singing over on the Malecon, but I didn't take his picture because he's wearing this mask. He's wearing a face shield, and it was not a good look on Rodolfo, I got to tell you that. But anyway, I want to thank a lot of you for some great suggestions from you listeners. You gave me some great hints on who to talk with, who you wanted to hear from, and it was a busy 10 days. It was a good busy 10 days. Now, I skipped the trip to Mascota and Talpa de Allende, but I interviewed a guy who is going to give us a great description of the town, and he's going to tell us some of the best ways to get there and where to stay if you choose to stay a night or two in Talpa and to explore. I'm going to have John on next week, as a matter of fact. He's going to tell us about his project that he did up in Talpa de Allende, and now he is doing it, replicating it down in Puerto Vallarta. It's called Guerra contra Basura. It's the war against trash. And he has this program in Puerto Vallarta that we're going to talk about next week. Now, I'm so sad that so many people are they're being encouraged not to travel to Puerto Vallarta. And I still say, if you feel comfortable traveling and if you miss Puerto Vallarta, I would definitely encourage you to come. In fact, I'm not letting it stop me. Okay, I've already made my reservations. I'm going to fly back in May, and let me tell you, the selection of Airbnb rentals that are out there are through the roof. There's some steep discounts, and you can easily find a place, a great spot with Airbnb. I'll fill you in on some of those details next week. Now, AMLO, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the president of Mexico, who I told you last week had the Rona, he is back on the job after dropping out for 2 weeks. He's not wearing a mask. He underwent a special treatment, he says, and he's ready to tackle the important issues facing Mexico, curtailing corruption, building a more secure future for those being terrorized by cartel violence, and bringing vaccines to fight the drastically deadly, dastardly virus. And AMLO is doing his daily briefings again. And if you have any desire at all to learn Spanish, Obrador speaks slowly and clearly, and he's easy to follow. And if you are interested, you should check out his daily briefings. They've actually become an issue, by the way, as elections loom in Mexico. I'm going to talk about that next week because it's interesting, and it has some similarities between U.S. and Mexican politics. But once again, we're let's run along. Let's see what happens next week. Now, just recently, I got word from JR that he was finally able to get online for the vaccine, for the jab, when it becomes available in Mexico. He went online to register through IMSS. He figures that the vaccine will be available sometime in June. But hey, look out for scammers, folks. Look out. The cartels may be selling snake oil disguised as vaccine. Looks like they're trying to take advantage of big money that's available to vaccine makers and providers. But is the mob involved? Here is a story from insightcrime.org that should concern everyone. Liquid gold. False COVID-19 vaccines emerge in Latin America. In 2021, the COVID-19 vaccine is liquid gold. As governments begin to roll out inoculation programs, criminal groups are taking advantage of the anxious interim, offering a range of scams from reserve vaccination spots to counterfeit vaccines, practices that may have serious public health implications. In early December, Interpol issued a global alert warning of criminal activity around the falsification, theft, and illegal advertising of COVID-19 and flu vaccines, the latest opportunistic and predatory criminal behavior triggered by the pandemic. And while Mexico seems to be at the early epicenter for criminal activity surrounding the COVID-19 vaccines, similar practices are emerging in numerous countries, including Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Brazil, and Panama. On January 8th, Mileno reported that Mexico's National Council of Private Security has confirmed the presence of laboratories set up by organized crime groups to create fake COVID-19 vaccines. The CNSP's President Raul Sapien Santos stated that such operations have been identified in Jalisco, Tamaulipas, Chihuahua, and Mexico City. There are also concerns that organized crime groups such as Familia Michoacana and Jalisco Cartel New Generation will try to infiltrate the supply chain and steal vaccines en route to local hospitals. If an organized crime group were to succeed in stealing vaccines, they could distribute false vaccines under the guise of selling the stolen doses. Given the role Mexican cartels have played in providing pandemic assistance to local communities, citizens may trust the vaccines are authentic, creating a false sense of security that could lead to greater community spread. On January 5th, the Secretary of Health for Mexico's state of Quintana Roo issued an alert warning of imposter vaccine brigades going door to door, collecting residents' personal information, posing as members of the state's Secretary of Health. Brigades are falsely registering residents to receive the vaccine in exchange for a copy of their voter identification card. The voter identification card, which looks like a driver's license, contains an individual's home address, voter code, and personal information, which, in the wrong hands, could be used to apply for bank credit, open a credit card, or steal a person's identity. After being notified by Pfizer-BioNTech, one of the companies manufacturing the COVID-19 vaccine, on January 5th, Mexican authorities announced the suspension of a website posing as the official Pfizer Mexico platform. The website, whose seemingly official URL, PfizerMX.com, and polished interface, replete with company logos, listed a phone number to call to order the vaccine. In a press conference, Mexico's Undersecretary of Health Prevention and Promotion, Hugo Lopez-Gatell, emphasized that there is no authorization to sell the vaccine. If someone claims to be selling you COVID vaccine, they are committing fraud and putting you at risk. As misinformation on the pandemic surges, online scams promising vaccines or reserved spots in line are likely to increase as opportunistic criminals look to make a quick buck on the public health crisis. In Cancun, Mexico -19 test results are being sold to tourists on social media platforms. Canadian tourists in need of a negative test to return home are being charged $100 for forged results, which are sent to them within the hour, according to an article from Le Devoir. Back in November, the Associated Press reported a similar scheme in Paris, where fake negative test results were being sold to travelers at Charles de Gaulle Airport for $180 to $360. Global travel restrictions have created a market for negative COVID-19 results, which looks poised to grow as countries seek to prevent the cross-border spread of new virus strains by requiring all international travelers to present a negative test result to gain entry. The COVID-19 pandemic has already bred numerous illicit economies, but few as potentially harmful as the falsification of COVID-19 vaccines. As vaccination programs ramp up across Latin America, scams selling access to the coveted liquid are likely to continue, with victims bearing both the financial and the health consequences. And I have a link to that article from insightcrime.org in the show notes. Now, before I get to the interview, I want to thank all of you who have written emails with suggestions for interviews, like I said earlier, messages of encouragement to me. And Carol, I got your picture. Wow. Nice picture. Anyway, I got a great review from Apple Podcasts from one of you, and thank you. I just want to thank you so much. These emails, I'm going to read them a little bit later, but let's get to our first interview, shall we? Now, I told you that I took 3 trips to El Tuito this time down. It had a little bit to do with time management issues, really, but the truth is there is so much happening in and around the town of El Tuito, and many of our friends who we've met over the years are doing some new and interesting things in this ranch town just about 50 minutes south of Puerto Vallarta by bus. For like 28 pesos or about $1.50, you can get over to El Tuito. Now, one of those interviewees was Maddie and Jesse James. They have a bed and breakfast in town, but they also have a new venture, and it's a pizza and sandwich restaurant. It's called Provecho, Panini's Pizza y Mas. And in Spanish, Provecho is a word that you would use instead of like bon appetit. It would be Provecho. So let's go right now and carb up in El Tuito. Let's see what Maddie and Jesse are up to in town. The town that's known for cheese and raicilla. Maddie James, Provecho, Panque, Paninis, Pizza y Mas, El Tuito, Cabo Corrientes, Mexico. Maddie, thanks for coming on the show again.
Thanks for having me again.
Hey, I'm in a little restaurant here. Tell us what you got going here, brother.
Well, we opened a new restaurant in El Tuito. It's called Provecho. We serve panque, sweetbreads, and then lunchtime we serve pizzas, paninis, artisanal sandwiches, salads, and a few other different things.
Yeah.
A little different for the El Tuito scene. Kind of a New York-style deli type feel, but in the middle of a small town in Mexico.
And is this like the first pizzeria here in Tuito?
We have had many pizzerias
Really?
come and go, but they're all very different from the style we do. We have a very Americanized style with lots of flavor in the sauce, good fresh cheeses. Many of the other places have been very delicious, but a lot of them use more Mexico-style cheeses and things like that, and it does different things when you use the different types of product.
You probably had to get a special oven for this?
I did. This all started with the COVID quarantine, and I started making my grandma's zucchini bread muffins and selling them to people in town because I started to fall in love with them. And I started that with a Costco countertop electric oven that would bake 6 muffins at a time. And with an order of 30 muffins at a time, it was all day. So we decided to get a bigger oven, and we got like a 2-door pizza and bread style oven, like professional bakery. And when we got that, we said, well, we don't really have anywhere to put this, so we might as well continue on with a full-blown restaurant. Why not?
Why not? So how'd you find this place?
You know, we actually have discussed doing a deli for 3 or 4 years now, but here in El Tuito, property near the plaza doesn't come up very often. So there was a couple ladies that had a wonderful restaurant here before. They were open 2 days a week, and they decided to move it into their house, and we had walked by one day into the store, and they had a sign up. We inquired, and then a week later, we were opening a restaurant. It was all kind of just like, wow, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, that was like, boom, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hearing here that it wasn't too hard to open this restaurant.
It was not. It was a lot of work for Jesse and I, the two of us.
Yeah.
But it was just a shell, and we put up some walls, put up some nice paint, ordered some equipment, and off we went.
All right, so tell us about your sandwiches. Tell us about your paninis and all that stuff. What do you got going there?
Our main sandwiches are the paninis. We do have the artisanal style sandwich, which is like a ciabatta bread and a cold sandwich. All of our paninis are the same as the cold sandwiches, so you can just, if you like something on there, you can get it hot or cold. The paninis have been very popular here. We have different meats from roast beef to chicken breasts, turkey breasts, salami and pepperoni sandwiches. And then we also have the same on the colds. We kind of got quirky and named all the sandwiches after different beaches and towns of Cabo Corrientes to stay true to the area and get people familiar. Instead of calling in saying, oh, I want that one with the turkey and the bacon, they can call in and say, hey, I want the tewa, because it's familiar and it sticks with them. And I can remember what the heck I'm doing. I'm like, oh, the tewa, I know what that is.
Yeah. Oh, that is totally cool. Okay, and then your pizzas, obviously, you're doing all kinds of pizzas.
Oh, yeah, all kinds of pizzas. Our biggest one's pepperoni jalapeno. We have medium and large, and the mediums are regular standard round medium, but our large is kind of different than anything around.
I think I've seen a picture of your large.
It's insanely large. It's 45 centimeters by 45 centimeters. It's the biggest box I could find and the biggest pizza pan I could find, and we went for it, and the locals are loving it.
Wow. Okay, tell everybody what that is in inches, because we have people from where.
18 inches by 18 inches.
18 inches.
Yeah,
wow.
It fills, and it's a square, so it fills the whole entire box. So when we bring it out, we had to get these special little like TV tray tables to set next to the table because there's just no room on the table for the pizza.
Right.
So it's a crowd pleaser for sure. We had a group come in last week. They ordered one for a group of 8 and a couple paninis, and they ended up ordering 2 more large. They were just having a good old time, drinking some beers. They ended up being here an hour after closing. We just let them have their fun and stayed here most of the night with them. It was nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, you got to love a paying customer.
Exactly.
And you have beers, right? You serve. You have a liquor license. You serve tequila. You got anything like that going on here?
No hard liquor right now. It's just wines and beers. We have a big selection of beers. We have probably 10 or 11 different beers. We have the Heineken products, Tecate products, and totally different for El Tuito is we have a vino selection. We have some wines. We have 3 different reds, 2 different whites. And if you know anything about El Tuito, if you want white wine, you should bring it if you're coming because they never had it before. And if you want red, there's only 2 styles in town. So we wanted to make sure that we had a good selection because a lot of the locals like it. And a lot of the snowbirders love it, and you just can't find it anywhere. So we're sure to stock up on all that and have a great selection for everybody.
Are they Mexican wines?
We have them from all over the world. We have one is a Mexican one, some are from Chile, and a couple different places. So a couple Italian ones, a little variation.
A little of everything.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. How are things going with your bed and breakfast?
It's still doing well. Obviously, the COVID has taken a hit for anybody in the hotel business, as everyone knows.
Yeah. Are you still getting people come anyway?
We are. The nice thing about it is, normally by September, my books are full till March. So a lot of the people that call last minute or the locals that are traveling last minute, they don't ever get to stay. And this year, since a lot of my main foreign travelers aren't traveling, a lot of the locals and nationals have been able to book. And I don't have a full calendar, but usually by Monday or Tuesday, I have that weekend booked with locals. And that's fine by me because working in the restaurant and the hotel is a lot, but it's given me an opportunity to do both and get used to it. So by next season, hopefully I have it all worked out perfectly.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I'm
sure.
not
By
crazy.
next season, you'll be 80. Yeah, I know how that goes. All right, so tell people where this place is. You're pretty close to the center of town, aren't you?
Yes, we are right off the main plaza. When you go into the main plaza, we're located on the street between the main plaza and the main church. So if you're at the plaza looking at the plaza letters that say El Tuito, take a right, and we're right there.
Right. All you have to do is when the bus drops you off, that sidewalk you're standing on, you just walk straight down the street, and you'll find it.
Yeah,
right?
We're right across from the bus stop, right next to the church, right next to the big tortilla place in town. So we get a lot of foot traffic, a lot of car traffic. It's an excellent location. I couldn't ask for anything better. And luckily we have great neighbors. They put up with us. So,
well, good.
But it's easy. It's walking distance from the plaza, the bus, easy transport everywhere.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to have, and you're in Facebook. You got links to. You have Instagram going on too, or
Instagram. We do have.
Yeah.
Jesse's in charge of that because I have too many accounts with the hotel and all that stuff. So
they don't want you. Yeah.
Yeah. I have the Facebook one, and it's Provecho Panini's. Panque, Paninis, Pizzas y Mas. But if you just search Provecho Tuito, it'll come up.
Okay.
That's also us on Google as well.
Excellent. Okay, and of course I will have a map that'll take you right to their front door, so you can't miss it. It won't have, this is a Google map, so it'll be the old place. You'll see that there, but at least you'll see where it is located right here in El Tuito, and you'll be able to come and visit. And, refresh yourself and get yourself a pizza and some wine and maybe a panini and
nice
a sandwich. And, this is a great little drop-off spot. Stop and get sandwiches so that you've got a picnic, right?
Exactly. Get off the bus, grab some sandwiches, or just stop in your car. Take it right down to the beach, Tewa, Maito, all those places. I mean, we'll keep it hot and warm, wrap it up for you so it's warm by the time you get there.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfect. Because there's really nothing like that here. So a nice little sandwich shop to go, dude, or pizza for that matter. You can eat it cold. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah, and the nice thing, we love all the restaurants here in Tuito, but they all have a very similar menu, which is, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. They're all wonderful menus.
Yeah.
But we just figured, let's give something a shot that's totally different. And we didn't know how it was going to go, but We took a gamble, and it seems to be working so far. So
Well,
we're happy about it.
Yeah, and while we were sitting here, we got locals eating with us. So there you have it. You're doing it right. You
Exactly.
know how to do it right. How is El Tuito faring now? Everything going okay? Pretty smooth.
Everything's going pretty well here in El Tuito. We're a little more secluded than the bigger touristy areas. It's growing a lot here. We've got a lot of new different stores and things popping up. A lot of building of new homes. With the COVID situation here is like anywhere else, I would suppose. It's hard to tell or track, but we're all pretty responsible. We all wear our masks, do our thing, keep our distance as much as we can. Most of us do anyway, like anywhere else.
Yeah.
But so far, Tuito's doing pretty well.
Excellent. All right, that's what I like to hear. Is there anything you want to add before we say goodbye today? Is there anything else that you can think of?
Not that I can think of. Just if you're in town, come check us out. We're open every day from 11 to 10 p.m., 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., and we will start delivery services soon. So come check us out. We'll be happy to show you around.
All right. Yeah, definitely do. Don't miss them. Thanks a lot, Maddie.
Not
Appreciate
a problem. We appreciate it. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you, Maddie. I have links and I have pictures and I have instructions on how to get to them. And they are just right down the street from that bus bench that I was talking about earlier. Okay. All right. So this bus bench, I took 3 trips, like I said, and I spent a lot of time sitting on those benches. I've spent a lot of time over the years waiting for buses sitting on these benches. And every time, it's kind of like the same cast of characters there. There's an older guys, they're like in their 70s, and they just sit there and they just shoot the... They rate the townswomen as they walk by. They make comments on each one of them, no matter what age they are. And they say, "Oh, that's so and so's cousin, or that's so and so's wife, or that's so and so's daughter," and they whisper under their breaths. Anyway, and one of them, every time I walk up, they would say something like, those gathered around, he would say something like, the burro is here. And of course, they're referring to my day pack. And it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun sitting there, knowing what they're saying, and all that time, they have no clue that I can speak Spanish. It's kind of fun. But I play dumb for these guys because they're just so entertaining to listen to. They probably would never open up if they knew that I could understand what they were saying. So there are more stories that I can tell you about that bench, and I'll tell you another time. Anyway, our next interview is one that I rushed to the top of the heap because, there are a lack of vacationers in Puerto Vallarta. And when there's a lack of vacationers in Paradise, that means that they are more likely to be needing our help feeding the most vulnerable people in Puerto Vallarta. And that means that we should go now. We should have a little visit with Jimmy Plouff from Vallarta Food Bank. So I asked Jimmy where he wanted to have lunch. And I told him I was buying, and he said, "How about we go to Nacho Daddy?" And so we did. I wandered down, and I saw Tammy and Sean there, and set up my microphones and recorder, and put it right in the middle of a table. Ordered some beers, a nice bowl of chili for myself. I can't remember what Jimmy had, but I think it had gravy on it. Anyway, when we finished eating, we got to talking about an incredible journey. A journey that so far is unbelievable, and we talked about maybe what's coming up in the future. So let's go right now. Let's go to a table in the middle of one of our favorites, Nacho Daddy, and let's talk again with my buddy, Jimmy Plouff, Vallarta Food Bank, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. All right. Jimmy, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me again.
Again and again. You are the guy that I've probably had on the show the most. I guess there's a couple of reasons for that. We're here to talk about one of those reasons is Vallarta Food Bank.
Yes.
So tell us what's new. What's going on at Vallarta Food Bank?
There's a lot of new stuff. I just made a post the other day, kind of dialing out our numbers for this past year. We started, as you know, on March 23rd. With 6 despensas. Our very first 6 came out of the dry goods and stuff that we had in between the house and the barbecue restaurant. And since then, we have produced and distributed 65,398 dispensas across the entire municipality and beyond.
Wow.
From our kitchen, which started in mid-August, I believe, we have produced and served 30,122 servings as of yesterday.
Whoa. Whoa.
Now, to put all that in perspective, Barry, I've done the math, and I checked this because I had to wrap my head around those numbers.
That's crazy.
Our dispensas weigh an average of 5.5 to 6 kilos each. That is over 400 metric tons of food.
Wow. Whoa.
Or as configured, that is 1.8 million individual servings of food.
Yikes.
And we've done that in 10 months. We've spent an awful lot of money. And we're grateful that we had that awful lot of money to spend, because there'd probably be a lot of very hungry people if not. I think we did the math on it. At one point, the peak month was May of 2020. And in that month, we produced and distributed 3,700 dispensas every week. In that month alone, we spent 700,000 pesos on food.
Wow.
We brought in and put out every week a little over 27 tons of food per week. We had 2 or 3 shifts of volunteers working not quite around the clock, but very close sometimes. And just looking back at all that is staggering. And I still have no clue how we pulled that off from 6 dispensas in March of 2020.
Well, it's the idea that sprung into something big and grand is what happened.
It definitely got bigger than I ever thought. It definitely did more than I ever thought. I figured, well, we'll be able to help out a little bit, and people kind of forget. Tourists will go home in the summer. COVID's on, and people just kind of, lose interest, I guess. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but that tends to happen with some things. When there's a crisis, people are right after it and then lose interest. But we've enjoyed the continued support of the community here in Vallarta, and also from people all over the world. We've received donations from as far away as Australia, the UK. I think we've got just about every continent, but the ice cube at the bottom has sent us a little bit of money here and there as they could, and we definitely appreciate it. We make every peso count, which is part of why we've transitioned over to more of a hot food kitchen. We still do dispensas, but it's much more limited now, as that is an expensive proposition, and we want to be in Vallarta for as long as we can. So to make the money go further, we've switched over, and we've continuously improved our kitchen. I think at current, we have the capacity to do almost 1,000 meals a day. Currently, this past week, we got up to about 500 servings a day. We serve every day, Monday through Friday, at 1 p.m., and we average somewhere between 400 and 500 people every day.
Wow. How do you? They're picking up the food and they're taking it home, right? Is that what they're doing?
Yes, they bring their own container.
Yeah.
And the only requirements that we have for them, we don't ask them for anything but a name, how many servings that they need, how many people are in their household, and that they wear a mask and that they're courteous and polite with our people. Because we occasionally have, a bad actor. Mm-hmm. We have to show them the way out and tell them that you need to come and be respectful and sober. Sober is a big challenge sometimes,
yeah.
But all we ask is that you're respectful, sober, and you wear your mask. That's it. If you don't want to give me your real name, that's fine. I don't care. Just something so I can account for it. But we are feeding people out of the soup kitchen for an average of 2 to 5 pesos per serving.
Wow.
So,
you really stretch it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it helps when you make it in 100-liter pots, you know. And that's what Victor.
You redid your kitchen, right? You did a whole new remodel.
Yeah.
on that
Over the New Year's holiday, we closed down for 2 extra days. Gave all the normal soup kitchen folks some, dry snacky stuff that didn't need preparation because some of them don't have a place to cook. So we made dispensas for everybody that comes to the line every day, and a couple extras for people that don't come every day but come sometimes.
Yeah.
And granola bars and just some stuff that they could eat on while we were going to be closed. We closed for 4 days, and in 4 days we completely gutted and kind of re-engineered the kitchen. We were able to get a really good deal on a restaurant kitchen from a locally fairly well-known restaurant that is closed now, and the equipment was in pretty rough shape, but we spent several weeks rehabilitating it and fixing it up, and we got it all up and cranking and going, and restored what we could and fixed what we could and put that in, and that has increased our capacity to what it is now. 1,000 to 1,200 meals is our capacity. So we're running about half capacity out of that kitchen now, whereas before at top speed it was all we could do to push out 400 plates. But yeah, we got a good deal on that stuff. We were able to rehabilitate it very cheap and a lot of elbow grease and get it up and running. And so as of January 1st, we were ready to rock and roll.
Excellent. So how long does it take for you guys to prepare a meal for 400 people?
Well, before, in the kitchen that we were using before, it would take us from about 9 a.m. to about 1 o'clock.
Wow.
Victor and the girls would get in there early. The volunteers that come in and help us chop onions. And we always need more people to come and chop vegetables, because that's like the most time-consuming task that we have. And we've got 3 people that work in the kitchen cooking. And they stay pretty busy with cooking.
Yeah.
But we ask our volunteers to come in and chop, because we may need 10 or 20 kilos of onions diced. I don't know if you know what 10 or 20 kilos of onions looks like, but that's a lot of freaking onions.
Yeah.
And then we'll do, 20 kilos of tomatoes and then 10 kilos of carrots, wash 20 kilos of rice. It's a lot of work. So it's one of those things that without the volunteers, we really would have a hard time.
What kind of things do you guys still need over there?
Oh, God. Well, we have a lot going on.
I know you need money. But
always we need money.
Yeah. Well, what else do you need?
Well, we have a couple of different things that we do now. We take medications that are either unopened and unexpired. So we have kind of a stash of stuff. Some people need metformin for diabetes. There's a lot of people that take that. So generally we try and keep that. So if somebody says, man, I'm out of medicine, I really need my medicine, we see their prescription and we can give it to them. The other thing we always need we always need clothes and household goods, because we have a little bazaar that we operate now. That opens on Thursdays, and people are allowed to come in and, 4 at a time, masks, sanitize, the whole 9 yards. But we have a little space in the front of the yard there before we serve. It stops when we start getting the stuff out to go serve the food, but we have clothing items and household goods, small appliances sometimes. I know there was an 80-year-old woman that was very excited to have a toaster oven.
Nice.
And again, we price it very, very, very low. We're not making anything. We're probably spending more to sell it than... And the magic is we get discretion. So if I know this person and I know their story and I don't think they can pay, a lot of times we'll just give it to them. Yeah, you need some clothes, you need some shoes, here you go.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Nice.
We usually have a small limit, 4 or 5 clothing items, so they're not stocking their whole wardrobe. And that gives everybody else a chance to get something. And they have, I think it comes down to I'm not sure if it's pride or if I think it's a dignity thing. And that's why when we talked about it, the local folks that we've talked to said, yes, we'd rather pay for it, whatever the price is, but we want to pay for it. So like we feel that we didn't take a handout. So sometimes it's 5 pesos for a shirt, which to you and me seems like, man, why even bother charging?
Right, sure.
But they can go home and say, I bought this. This is mine.
Yeah.
Not somebody gave me it.
Nice. Yeah.
So, I don't know. We sold a brand new Hamilton Beach toaster oven for 200 pesos.
Yeah. That's $10, everybody.
Yeah.
$10 US.
But any of
Today.
that stuff that we can get our hands on, if it works, if it doesn't work, if I get 2 or 3 toasters and I can fix one toaster with the parts from the other 2, it's fine. I do a little bit of that tinkering, and we've got a couple of older gentlemen from the line that enjoy a little tinkering and cleaning and things. So they'll come in and they'll tinker on things that don't work, and if they can fix it or take parts from it and fix something else, they do. So you might get a very ugly toaster, but it is a working very ugly toaster for, 100 pesos or less even. But
Yeah.
So we take everything. Sometimes we get junk, sometimes we don't. Everything that you bring us can get used, have a purpose. We've had people bring us things like one of those high-end Keurig coffee pot things, and I don't think any of those people is very interested in it. However, we are able to sell that and then put that money back into the food bank and use that to, maybe it buys a kilo of rice next week. Who knows? Or maybe it goes to, we've used some of the money to buy shoes for our kitchen staff. We noticed that the 2 gals, and they've been working with us for a long time. They're wonderful. We bought them some of these nice kitchen shoes like you see I've got on my feet now. 1 for safety, and 2 because they were coming in those, the OXO flip-flops.
Oh, yeah.
And
Standing
I was
around
like,
like that.
That's
awful.
not cool. Let's go get them some shoes, guys. So we've done things like that, and when sometimes the solution isn't very clear, it takes money and not food to get outside the box and really help somebody. We don't advertise those cases a lot because we don't want people coming thinking that we're going to hand out money and bus tickets and whatever else. But in some cases, that is the best solution. So we do it on a case-by-case basis. We talk to the people. We get to know people. I don't know if you saw my piece on Edna a while back.
Remind us.
Edna was a cancer patient that started coming way back when we first started out of the old restaurant location. She's been getting dispensas. She lives with her son-in-law and her daughter, I believe, or it's her daughter-in-law and her son. I can't recall. But she weighed 48 kilos when she started coming and was in cancer treatment. Now Edna weighs a very healthy 56 kilograms. Told us that her doctor said our food has made it to where she is no longer anemic. She's gaining weight, has responded well to treatment, and is, as of now, as far as we know, in remission.
Wow.
And the doctors and her attribute much of that to the fact that she's eating well.
She's getting nutritionalized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got some people that think our meals don't look that great. I eat that food every day, Barry. That's where I eat lunch. I eat lunch at the food bank. So I skip liver and onions day, though. Hard pass on liver and onions.
Yeah. Me too. Me too.
But everybody else seems to really enjoy it, so we keep making it. That's just the day I go out for
skip.
lunch.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I bring my granola bar from home, man.
I don't blame you. I won't tell you what my mom used to do to her kids, making them eat liver. It was bad.
I can't stomach the stuff, but people do like it, so we keep making it. It's one of those things we stopped making it, and they were like, "What happened to liver and onions?" I'm like,
Whoa.
Y'all like that? Okay, cool. We'll make more of that.
You got to accommodate. Good for you.
We make lots of different stuff, and we have sometimes volunteers that come in and cook with our kitchen staff and direct the kitchen for the day. Some chefs that come in and work with us. We have a nutritionist that we talk to regularly, and we have doctors that we've talked to about what we prepare, and they said this is a pretty good balance. It's if you're only going to eat 1 or 2 meals a day, this is okay. So for those that think we're not doing that sort of thing, we absolutely are conscious. The other part of it is it boils down to what we can get enough of for 500 servings and prepare within our budget. We have a budget so that we can continue to do this for the foreseeable future. And we have some monthly donors. I would encourage anybody that would like to get on board, even $1 a month, you know, or more than that, we'd love. But if all you got's $1 a month you can spare, it all goes towards furthering the cause and helping us keep doing what we're doing. I don't see a projected end date yet. I think we've still got a pretty good flow going. It's definitely less than it was.
That's good.
But thankfully for everybody that was around at the time, we had enough to get us through some of the tougher parts of this thing. And I'm hoping we're looking at the end of it soon.
Yeah, me too.
That's a whole nother subject, though.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that another time. In fact, we were just having lunch, Jimmy and I. We were just talking about money and about sending money and banking and all that stuff. And I think I'm going to get you back. We're going to have an episode on that real soon.
Okay, well, I can probably bring in somebody much better with money than me, but...
No, but because
I'm not in charge of handling the money at the food bank because I'm not that good at it. We've got 2 other people that track every single peso, and when I need a peso, I go talk to them, and they give me the peso.
Yeah, there you go. As you should.
Yeah, well, and they account for it. They count every single peso that goes in or out of that building in whatever form it comes, and we post that online for everybody to see because we don't want to be one of these mysterious organizations that has no accountability.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that everybody knows and sees that their money's going where it's supposed to. I invite anybody that would like to come by. I'll show you around, show you what we do. You can hang out and help serve food. There's any number of things that, you know, I tell people if you're curious, if you're not sure, come by and see us. We'll absolutely take you around. We'll absolutely show you the shower that we built out back for the homeless folks. We'll show you, you know, pictures of all the blankets and toys that we distribute over Christmas and New Year's, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
We had more than we needed,
wow.
Which was also wonderful.
That's great.
We handed out, I want to say, 752 toys for Christmas.
Wow.
Out of the people that come through the line regularly, there were 752 children.
Nice.
That's a lot of children.
Yeah, that's a lot of kids.
But we even put on our Santa hat this year, and I'm hoping that we can do it again next year and again, because I don't care what life is like. There's always people hungry. And if you've ever been hungry, you never want to do it again. So I definitely encourage people to do what you can.
And how do they do that?
Good question. You can go to www.vallartafoodbank.com. That is our website, and there is different ways to help us out on there, whether it's volunteering, donating, becoming a monthly donor. And then we've got our Facebook page, which has we kind of try and post regularly there, kind of what we're up to so you can keep up with us. And then now we've got our fundraiser. We're doing our first annual fundraiser. So we're trying to make it happen in such a way that it's safe, observing COVID precautions and that sort of thing. And some people have said, well, you know, I don't know if now's the time for that, and I don't know if the tone's correct. And I said, look, there's other restaurants in town, and with precautions, they can put 30 or 40 people in their restaurant. I've got a big, wide open garden that I can do this in.
Yeah.
And we're going to have 30 or 40 people, and we're going to have a really nice dinner together with some entertainment and probably some auction items if we can get those, you know, some kind of door prize, who knows.
Well, tell me when it's going to be. I'll send you a prize.
It is February 7th,
okay.
Super Bowl Sunday.
Nice. Okay, that's
30
easy to
minutes
remember.
after kickoff.
Oh, good planning. Good planning.
Yeah, we didn't think that one. I didn't look at that, and as soon as we put up the post the next day, I was like, "There's something on that day. I don't know what it is, but oh crap, it's the Super Bowl." So we actually are talking about maybe moving that to after Valentine's Day.
It
so
might be a good idea.
Tentatively,
Yeah, you might get more. More guys there.
Well, that may occur. So we might move that. But currently, we pulled together some favorites from around Vallarta to prepare a really nice deal. We've got Francie from Bonito Kitchen is going to be handling our appetizers.
Nice.
She hasn't revealed what she's got planned, but it sounds like it's going to be pretty cool.
I bet it is. She's great.
And myself, I am cooking the main course. I will be cooking USDA Select filet of beef over hickory.
He's barbecuing.
Seasoned to perfection and served alongside a shrimp and scallop Cajun pasta with a garlic, cheddar, bacon, mashed potato pile with onion gravy all over it. And then
God, you're
that
making me hungry.
will be served alongside a beautiful cocktail made by Vallarta's very own Rafael Martinez, the mixologist of Bonito Kitchen fame.
Okay.
So we've roped him into this as well. And then we'll also have there helping with everything, Victor, our executive chef at the food bank, and his two sous chefs, Lupita and Claudia, will be helping us out. And then Pavlova Bakery will be doing our dessert.
Oh, wow.
Which there will be also another fancy cocktail with that. Probably Raphael is going to be doing that as well. Or maybe I'll just go pour some Baileys in a cup and call it good. We don't know yet.
So you've got, are you selling tickets for this, or?
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to be selling tickets. I'm hesitant to say the price because I feel like people are tight with money, and I hate asking for it, but that's why we have to do this, so we can keep going. They are $200 per plate. It's like a normal fundraiser dinner. We charge a bunch. Mm-hmm. You're going to get your bang for your buck. Yeah. But the idea is to raise funds for the food bank, so we're not going to, go broke on this.
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Yeah. For your cooking, Jimmy. Come on.
Well, and here's the beauty. One of the prizes that's up for grabs that we've already talked about is a chef's table with yours truly in my backyard for 10 people.
Oh, wow.
At my outdoor kitchen, I will cook for you whatever barbecue that your little heart can desire. For up to 10 people, you and 10 people. So that's going to be one of our auction items. And you've had my brisket.
Oh, man.
You've had my ribs.
Oh, man.
You've had my prime rib.
Yes, sir.
This is all available. This is all on the table. So we're going to go and do a chef's table, and I'll probably bring somebody in also as a mixologist to make sure your glass stays full during this event. So this is not just this fundraiser dinner. There's going to be some cool experiences, because I said, okay, anybody can give you a TV, but why wouldn't I just go to Costco and get one if I wanted one? Well, why don't we do experiences versus, a painting and the stuff you usually get for these fundraisers? I think it needs to be an experience, something cool that's unusual and different.
All right.
So that's what we're shooting for.
Okay, so if you're in town and if you own a business and you have maybe an experience that you would like to donate to this event, get a hold of Jimmy and just send a message through Vallarta Food Bank, and he will listen. His ears will perk up, and of course we'll let you know if the date changes. I think Jimmy's got. I think you are planning on changing that date, aren't you?
We're talking about it, but that's a 3-person meeting.
All right, we're not going to do that here then.
So we're not going to change the date right here until I talk to the other people who help me run this cat herding business that we've got. So I definitely need to talk to them.
All right. Well, then you'll let me know, and then I'll let everybody else know, and
Absolutely.
We'll know when this event is, because it sounds great, and obviously for a wonderful cause. Do you have anything else you want to add before we say goodbye today?
I do want to just, again, as always, say thank you very, very much to all the volunteers who've worked very hard since we started to make this possible. Everybody likes to go, oh man, you're the guy that did the food. No, I'm not just that. I'm not the whole thing. I just kind of fix stuff when it breaks. There's a lot of other people. Frankie and Francie have been instrumental, along with so many of our volunteers. I couldn't sit here and name them all. I know there's over 80 that we've got in rotation.
Wow. That's amazing.
And some of them are business owners, realtors, you name it. They come from all walks of life and help us out. And then I also got to thank all the people who have donated and sent money, sent items, sent all kinds of things, because we couldn't do all that we do without those people behind us. We'd just be, a couple of kids screaming in a corner.
Yeah.
So thank you to all those people who have made this possible, because we wouldn't be here without you guys.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, there'd be a lot of hungry people in Puerto Vallarta without you guys. And I want to thank you for everything that you've done. And I want to encourage all of you listeners out there to keep giving. Maybe get yourself a monthly, get yourself on a monthly program. And don't forget that if you have stuff that you want to take down in your suitcase to donate, do it. And you know where to take it now. You just take it over to Vallarta Food Bank.
One more thing.
Yeah, what?
While you are here, I know you're here a very short period of time, but others are here much longer. If you've got containers, plastic containers, we always need them. The crema container, the yogurt thing that you buy at Costco, those big plastic things with the lids.
Okay.
Bring us those, because not everybody can afford to bring one, or they don't have one, so they end up buying a styrofoam cup to put their food in, which doesn't have a lid, and they can't always carry that on the bus home or whatever. So those other containers, we'll take as many as you can give us. We prefer that they were cleaned out.
Oh, yeah, clean them.
Please. But if they're not, we'll figure it out. Just don't bring me anything with a science project in it.
Right on.
But yeah, we'll take any and all of those to give to people who don't have containers or have containers that aren't really suited for what they're doing. We have people that bring their pot from the kitchen to carry their food home in, which is fine. But I'd like to offer them some kind of meaningful container that they can use. And so we'll take any of those and all of those. And you're recycling. You're doing a good thing.
Yeah.
We'll use that, and they'll use that over and over and over and over.
Right, and it doesn't cost you a penny.
You've already used the product.
Exactly. So there you go.
Just give us the container.
All right. So add that onto the things to bring down. Save your containers like that and bring them down. They don't weigh much. They don't weigh much. You can pack them. So that's a good thing. Jimmy, I want to thank you again. You are the most prolific of all of my guests, and I really appreciate your time and your efforts. And I can't wait to have you back on the show. We're going to talk about something else.
Yeah, anytime, man. You know where to find me.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you again. Now, that auction that Jimmy was talking about, it's been postponed, as you might imagine. So far, it's not been rescheduled, but when it is, I'll make the announcement, and we'll have the contact information for you over at the Vallarta Food Bank. Now, make sure that you give when you can, and they really need your help. So, if you're in town, see if you can volunteer. Cut some of those onions. And remember, if you've got containers if you're coming from the States or coming from Canada, got some containers, bring them on down. And then don't forget, they've got their donatable bazaar there. So bring your clothes, your donatable items, and add those to your list of things that you normally would bring down to Puerto Vallarta, and bring them down to Vallarta Food Bank. They could use everything that you've got. It is amazing. I don't know. I mean, it's amazing to me how much food that they've distributed. It is mind-boggling. So I want to thank all the volunteers. You guys rock. You're the best. And thank you, Sean, and thank you, Tammy, over at Nacho Daddy, for letting us record the interview right in the middle of your restaurant. I hope that you enjoyed the ambiance, everyone. The blender in the background was just so authentic, wouldn't you say? Just add a little tequila, and we're all set. So All right. Well, that should do it for this week. Stay tuned for more on-the-ground reports from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, with travel tips, great restaurant excursion ideas, and more. But until then, remember that this is an interactive show where I depend on your questions and your suggestions about all things Puerto Vallarta. If you think of something that I should be talking about, then please reach out to me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending us your message. And remember, if you are going to be booking a tour while you're in Puerto Vallarta, you must go to vallartainfo.com, that's JR's website, and reserve your tour through him right from his website. Remember, this is a value-for-value proposition. His experience and on-the-ground knowledge of everything Puerto Vallarta in exchange for your making a purchase of a tour that you would do anyway. You're just doing it through him as a way of saying thank you. Thanks, JR, for being our guide. It costs no more than if you're going to use someone else. So do it, really. And when you do take one of those tours, email me about your experiences. Maybe you can come on board and share with others what you liked or didn't like about the tour. Again, contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending off a message. And don't forget, he's got his maps, his DIY tours, his revitalized happy hour board, and more. And I have links to all of those in the show notes. And once again, if you like this podcast, please take the time and subscribe and give a good review wherever you happen to be listening to this podcast, or share it with a friend. That's always the best way. That way we can get the word to more and more people about the magic of this place, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Remember, I made it easy for you to do just that with each episode I create. But if you haven't been to my website, you really need to have a look there. I have links to the places that we talk about, I have interesting pictures, and more right there in the blog posts and in the show notes for each episode of the show. So check them out for sure if you haven't already. All right? All right. Thank you, Maddie, James from Provecho Restaurant, and Loja del Tuito, Hotelito, and, in friendly El Tuito. I have links and pictures in my show notes. I want to thank Jimmy Plouff from Vallarta Food Bank. Give. I have links, all that kind of stuff in the show notes. Make sure that you bring cool stuff next time you come down to the Vallarta Food Bank. They can use everything you got. And thanks to all of you for listening all the way through this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. This is Barry Kessler signing off with a wish for you to slow down, be kind, and live the Vallarta lifestyle. Nos vemos, amigos.
Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de amor junto al mar. Solo camino interno por la playa, me encuentro junto al río cuando todo está en calma. Pronto cae la noche, brillas Puerto Vallarta, samba de Puerto